Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be all about baby-led weaning. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to actually have a laptop here to kind of go over the definition and online references that I've seen in regards to baby-led weaning and articles. The first person that I learned baby-led weaning from was a YouTuber named Brittany Balin. I started watching her videos more so because of like postpartum, because she keeps it like 110% real with what's going on with her body. So Brittany Balin's baby is actually really close to my son's age, so I was very intrigued with her content because we were kind of on the same pace. So when she started feeding and making foods for her baby, I was really intrigued about what baby-led weaning was and, you know, how do you introduce this to your infant? If you were to research when the term baby-led weaning was first introduced, the first article that's going to pop up is going to be a pediatrician article of Biomed Central. And the term baby-led weaning was first introduced by Jill Rapley in 2005. So that gives us a time frame of when this method was first introduced. And basically, baby-led weaning is an alternative method of infant feeding which promotes infant self-feeding from 6 months of age instead of the conventional parent spoon feeding. So, and when they say parent spoon feeding is, as many of you guys know already that are moms, parent spoon feeding is really when, you know how like the pediatrician nowadays recommends you starting their first solids at 4 months? That only means that you're giving a jar food. Yes, when you're doing baby-led weaning, you still would do the jar food or the puree food, as they call it, at 4 months. And even then, that actually is really crazy because a lot of people used to say don't start the puree, and some pediatricians will tell you not to start purees at 4 months, and some may tell you to wait a little bit longer. And really honestly, if you don't know why, it is because it all depends about your child's motor skills and developmental milestones. So if your pediatrician tells you otherwise because your baby is not developmentally ready for purees, so back to baby-led weaning. And it's crazy because when I researched this baby-led weaning, I was surprised that it was even back in 2005. Especially now, a lot of pediatricians should be able to know what baby-led weaning is, and if they don't, I'll kind of be a little nervous. Most doctors, if I'm not mistaken, they have to continue their education, so they have to go to certain classes to learn a little bit more. So I'm hoping, I don't know, that baby-led weaning, they are aware of what that is. And my pediatrician, she was awesome. Like when I told her that he was doing the baby-led weaning method, she didn't really say much about it. And as long as he seems to be doing fine, she said that, you know, continue whatever works for him. I personally started Cairo with the purees at 4 months. I'll insert a little video or a little clip of him eating his first puree. So I personally started his baby-led weaning journey at 7 months. So technically not 6 months. So the reason being, I think I personally waited until Cairo had his teeth. Personally, that made me feel better. So if you want to wait until they obviously have their first teeth, you're more than welcome to. But just know that you can actually introduce the baby-led weaning method even if they don't have any teeth. Why do people recommend 6 months? So the reason why baby-led weaning is suggested to start at 6 months of age, regardless of whether your baby has teeth or not, is because at 6 months of age, they're able to sit upright with minimal support, and they're able to control their head. They're able to bring food to their mouth. The key to this method. Baby-led weaning is a hands-off feeding, meaning as a parent, you don't actually spoon feed your baby. You let them pick up their food and bring it to their mouth, and you literally sit across from them, just watching them eat. What are the benefits of doing this method? Just be asking yourself, okay, so what is the hype of baby-led weaning? If you go to the article, it's actually going to be off of Healthline. So baby-led weaning may help promote good eating behaviors and protect children against excessive weight gain. It may also reduce picky eating and make it easier for parents to introduce foods to their babies. The less likelihood of choking. It's just so many benefits, and I wish I can go into all of them, but there's a ton of articles that you can literally read up on of other parents who've done it. You can YouTube it. Yes, I did jar food, and a lot of people say you can bypass jar food and go straight to the actual like foods themselves for baby-led weaning, but I had no issue whatsoever switching him from purees to the baby-led weaning method. He actually loves food, and I don't know, my son loves food. The reason why I knew this method was gonna work for him, and I'll insert a clip, is because every time, I mean, when I say every time that we ate, he recognized that as we're eating. And I don't think he was even 6 months by the time he was recognizing that. You'll see that my husband was trying to drink his Subway drink, and my son literally wanted to take it away from his hands and suck on the straw and drink whatever my husband was drinking. Those are super important cues that you can learn to pick up that definitely tell you that your son or daughter are ready for solids. Not only for purees, but for this method. Another example, which I wish I had a video of, but I don't, is when my mother-in-law was taking care of him, and I cannot recall his age. It could have been, like I said, less than 6 months of age, or maybe even at 6 months. My mother-in-law was eating an Arby's sandwich, and my son snatched it from her hands and shoved it in his mouth. Did he eat any of it? No, because it fell and it like just got all over him. But I knew, I was like, okay, this baby, my son is different. When I say he is different, he is built different, okay? He's just so smart. Even though he's 1 now, he can't verbalize what he wants, but he can definitely tell you what he wants without actually speaking. I would not recommend you starting this method at 4 months of age. So maybe you could wait till just straight 6 months and just do milk up until like 6 months and then start the baby-led weaning. But you could always do your research. You could talk it out with your pediatrician, see what's the best option. In regards to purees, I never really had enough time to actually like make my own purees. So don't feel bad about feeding your child Gerber, beech nut, or the jar food. I mean, if you have time and you're a stay-at-home mom to do the purees, awesome. There's nothing wrong with doing jar food. You know, there's a whole spiel of articles out there that say that they're being recalled. I mean, this stuff has been going on for years. Gerber and all these other jar foods have been out for years. And yeah, maybe it's not the best option, but at the same time, I mean, come on now. Like, it's bound to happen. Your food is bound to be contaminated. Likewise with your apples, likewise with, if you do, like, a lot of people are like, grow your own vegetables, grow your own fruit. You do realize you have to use pesticide to control the pests that are coming into your food. And it's a whole spiel, and you could argue with other parents about it, but I'm gonna just tell you how it is. Like, I'm gonna tell you straight up. You still have to use pesticide. I've had plants myself, and whether you use organic pesticides or non-organic pesticides, you still have to control the pesticides. Regardless, there's going to be contamination. Now, if you don't use a pesticide, you pick your fruit or your vegetables, then you risk contamination, and you risk that there's a parasite in your food. I mean, you know, to a certain extent, like, there's going to be food contamination regardless all across the boards, whether you're organic, non-organic, whatever. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I'm going to throw a little snippet if I can find of an article. The bananas and avocado for Cairo, usually these are like the standard first step baby-led weaning foods. And the reason being is because once they put them in their mouth, they kind of just mush, or they're easy to mush. Like, the baby can actually play with it. And look, I'm gonna tell you straight up, like, when you start this method, some kids don't actually realize that it's actual food. And what they'll do is play with their food. They'll bang it, they'll mash it. Let them play with it. This method is literally like a nonchalant. As a parent, you're supposed to just sit there and watch them play with their food. They're supposed to sit there and watch them figure it all out by themselves. So you do have to have patience. That's one thing I do want to say about baby-led weaning. Some kids grasp it like this, other kids do not. My child did, because he loved food and he knew that this was food, and he knew that this is nothing that he should play with. Now, granted, after he finishes his food and he's done, he'll play with it, and that's how I know he's done. So avocados and bananas are like the standard for solid food for baby-led weaning because they're easy to smash. Based off a list I pulled up here, the best first foods for baby-led weaning are avocados, banana, sweet potatoes, soft cooked carrots, green beans, or even soft cooked apples. So all these stuff are super helpful for you to know. Obviously, if you want to learn more about what foods to use, you can do your own research. I'm gonna shout out my favorite app and my favorite person to follow is Solid Starts. I literally, if you already follow my stories or if you follow me, you already know how much I push for that app. The reason why I push for that app, and she used to not have an app actually, so it was really cool when they came out with an app. She just had her own page. So you can go to Solid Starts. I'm following them if you want to go to their page, or you can download the app. It should be free to download. The only reason it will cost you more is if you actually want to be like a member, and like I think you have to like make your own profile and make your baby's profile, and you can log everything that you introduce your son or daughter to. So, but I'll insert a few screenshots of that. And they're an awesome app. They give you recipes, like how to use the food. They show you pictures and videos of how other children eat their food and how to actually cut the food based off of age. And that brings me to my next point. When you do baby-led weaning, it is also important on how you meal prep the food and how you prepare the food. So you have to cut it a certain way depending on their developmental milestones. Personally, because I was slightly paranoid, I would cut them in like wedges. As they get older, you can start giving them into like circular. I think when I first introduced him to the banana, and I do have a video of that, there is a method where you leave the skin on there and you kind of let them just kind of suck on it, munch on it, and it does work that way. So I don't use that method now, but it kind of just depends. It's all about what you're comfortable with. And I don't want you guys to feel like you have to do it a certain way, or a certain way that like a YouTuber or someone else mentions it. You follow your baby's lead. So did I ever get scared doing this method? Yes, multiple times. And I have videos of that. And I have a whole highlight of baby-led weaning on my profile. So check that out. But I post what I feed Cairo, and I post like him gagging. So there's a difference between gagging and there's a difference between choking. And when you're doing baby-led weaning, this is the hardest part. And I can see why people would avoid doing this method. Parents get freaked out. And I did that too. I'm guilty of it. So to recap now you know that with baby-led weaning, you have to prepare the food differently for different age groups in order to prevent choking. Know that this process will be messy and that sometimes your child may not grasp this process or this method super fast, and they may just play with their food. So another thing that I want to mention is you don't want to put any food in their mouth, because doing so would actually increase the choking. You have to sit back and just not do anything unless they're actually choking. And there's a difference between choking and there's a difference between gagging. And I'm going to show you some videos of my son when he just gags and it seems like he's choking. So I'm going to read a little snippet from this article from ReadySetFood.com. And it says, your baby's gag reflex is actually farther forward in the mouth when you start feeding them solids. To better protect them from choking, it will move back as baby gets older. If baby is choking, they'll be quiet or silent. They'll have trouble coughing or won't even cough at all. They'll also have trouble breathing. And this I can attest to, because when my son would gag, he'll make a big noise. He make the loudest noise. And he would get me. Sometimes he'll be gagging and then I'll be like, are you okay? And then he looks at me and he starts smiling or starts laughing throughout the gag. And I'm like, really, dude? Really? And when my husband found him choking, he said that he would have never noticed him choke because he was about to leave. And this is another reason why you had to be present. He was about to leave to go outside to get the dog. And my son was half asleep in his playpen and half awake. And my husband had actually fed him little Cheerios snacks. It's just little Cheerios. Out of all the things, he choked on a Cheerio, right? Picked it up and put it in his mouth. And my husband didn't realize at the time because he went to go outside to was about to go outside and get the dog and bring him back in. And that's why I said that it's really important to be present when you're feeding, because you never know. And my husband said, I looked over and he had like tears running down from his eyes and his face was all red, and he had to perform the maneuver. Did that, and after that it came out. But my husband's like super scarred, and we learned our lesson. Like, it's a learning curve. Like, I told my husband, I'm not even mad at you, I'm not upset at you whatsoever. I was like, you know, we're just are grateful for him to be here and be alive, but it's just so important. And that gag reflex actually helps protect against choking. But when they do it, like, it helps push the food out and then they spit it up. And my son has done that. And with baby-led weaning, your son or daughter may try to shove a bunch of food in their mouth, because my son does that even till this day. And everybody looks at me like, oh my gosh, aren't you gonna do something about your son choking over here or shoving his face? And I'm like, nah, he's good, because I know he can handle it. He's learned at this age now that he knows that if he shoves food in his mouth, he'll plop it back out. He plays with food sometimes too. He'll put it in, like he'll put his little chips or something. I'll shove him and he'll just run around with like it in his mouth. And I'm like, dude, get it out. And he'll spit it back out. And that's why I said this is all a learning method. You have to sit down and observe your child. The only way you're going to figure out whether your child is gagging or choking is until it actually happens. So if you're not allowing them to gag, if you're not allowing them to struggle, you're never going to learn what the difference is, and you're not going to learn their cues. You're not going to know what is just, you know, their personality. Like, my son loves to shove his food in his mouth, and there's nothing really I can do about it other than taking away the rest of the food so he won't shove it. Now, when I used to put my fingers in there and try to dig out the food, because I tried that once when he was gagging because I got scared, he will get so mad. I mean, like, mad that he will scream, because he will think that I'm taking away the food from him. Like, I'm like, you know, like, it's one thing when you take the food away from them when it's just on the table. And it's another when they're taking it out of their mouth. I mean, who wants that? I mean, imagine you sitting down eating your food and then someone just sticks their finger and tries to get it out. Sticking your finger in their mouth can actually choke them. I don't do that anymore. And also you can push back the food further down the trachea, and you don't want that. So avoid doing that. Don't take it out. And then 2, they're gonna get upset. So, and that brings me to my next point. You know how in the beginning of the video I had mentioned that one of the benefits of baby-led weaning is a healthy weight. And the reason being is because of spoon feeding. And I'm sure you probably cannot, I'm sure if you sat down now and think back to when you're spoon feeding your child, you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, when you're spoon feeding, you're actually forcing them to finish the food. And you're forcing them to be like, okay, like, they don't know, they don't have the connection between their brain and their tummy to say, hey, I'm done, like, I'm full, I'm good. And when they're seeing that spoon come towards them, all they're gonna want to do is like, you know, they're gonna want to eat the food. So you're actually more apt to overfeeding your child when you're doing a spoon feeding versus baby-led weaning, because since you're not doing any of the feeding and they're self-feeding, they can take their time to be like, am I really hungry or am I done? The baby-led weaning method does help with babies not being picky eaters. My son is not a picky eater whatsoever. The true thing that he does not like is eggs. And I have a reason why. And the reason is probably because when I first introduced him to eggs, he threw up, and I feel like that had a weird, like, I don't know, had a weird toll on him. I don't think he's technically allergic to eggs because he never really had any hives or anything like that. He just doesn't like them, and I don't blame him. Like, out of everything, if he doesn't want eggs, he doesn't have to eat eggs. Like, you know, as long as he eats. Baby-led weaning, you prevent a picky eater because you're already exposing them to textures, you're exposing them to different shapes, you're exposing them to different colors, different tastes, like everything. I do want to mention, like, I'm not trying to put anybody down. If you guys don't want to do this method, that's totally fine, because I know it's super scary and it takes a lot of patience. I know that because I've done it. I think I've hit all my key points about baby-led weaning and all the background of baby-led weaning and basically my experience and my son's experience with it. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.